Hello, and welcome to Khyber Shards, a 5th edition actual play show set in the Eberron campaign world. I'm Philip.
I'm Colin.
And welcome to another Khyber Shards Answers. It's Friday, where we take questions from our viewers. If you want to submit questions, you can do so in comments below, and I go back and check those before we record these. You can also submit them over on our Discord, which you can find a link to down below over on the Geek Pantheon Discord in the Khyber Shards Questions channel. So this episode, we're going to be talking a little bit about Chapter 1 POG, and then, I think mostly we'll focus on the conversation with Tommel in the last episode. Because that was really the plot element.
It's my favorite part of the last episode.
Right.
I honestly, I'm going to tell you the truth. I fast forwarded while we were playing. I fast forwarded until the Tommel conversation.
All right.
Man, I'm disappointed. I didn't know we were talking POG. I thought I was here to answer questions about Ari. But it's okay. I can pivot.
Well, I appreciate you being flexible.
I do what I can. Man.
So Richard had a question that I'm asking everyone, or really a set of questions. He wanted to know, what are each player's most enjoyable moment, most surprising moment, most afraid for their characters' lives moments, and funniest moments. So what, to you, Colin, has been the most enjoyable moment in the campaign, I guess, of Chapter 1?
Oh, man. These are really good questions to have to think back, because for having done this for, Chapter 1 was 22 episodes?
22 episodes,
22 hours plus a full day of D&D. We had a lot of moments that, as the guy in his first campaign, I thought were really special, that were really, really fun to be there for. Most enjoyable moment would probably be the conversation with Shade in his room, when it just resolved in them deciding to sit quietly together. As a theater kid, and those that have watched the stream, playing the games that I like, I love when a story can breathe. And the fact that you let us as players have so much freedom to find pleasant, quiet moments, that was really powerful for me as a player. So it was something that I didn't expect to have happen. Like when you pitched this game and then pitched the idea of making a YouTube show out of it, I wouldn't have expected that moment. So most enjoyable for the player, that was it. Most surprising? Most surprising is a tough one.
That is.
Because you're a great DM, and I'm surprised all the time. Man, a particular one, I don't know, the fact that we got away from the market at all. Or, you know what, let's not discount early Khyber Shards and say how surprising it was to see a little girl chased through a market by flying murderous silverware. That was surprising. What is happening?
I did really enjoy everyone's faces with that.
What have I gotten into? Most afraid for Pog's life, I can't talk about, because it wasn't Chapter 1. It just happened in Chapter 2. And we actually discussed it right before we went into recording here. Terror went straight through the player's body. In Chapter 1, honestly, it may have been reckless attack in the Tommel fight in the street with the Rebel Warren gang, because that was the first time, discounting Kolos, which wasn't combat per se. Yeah. That was the first time that you as a DM have punished me for my vulnerabilities, and I went under the first opportunity attack, and I went, man, I'm up against some smart people. I'm committed to rage. These are skilled fighters, and with all the jokes that I as a player make about the party's characters aside, I'm the only one that can like deal some hurt to a bunch. Like, this is tough. This is gonna be rough. If I played stupid right here. This was a bad play, and I'm gonna pay for it. And it could have gotten really out of hand for me. So that was afraid for my character's life. I wasn't when we were down in the upside down. Down under the city. I didn't there. Getting knocked in our boggle chase was not ideal, but yeah, it was one monster. We were gonna be fine.
Yeah.
And funniest moment, I don't know. Pug's really, been kind of surprising me with how much I get to play with humor in general. But I just don't think if we're keeping to chapter 1, if we're discussing chapter 1, I don't know of a time in recent history that I laughed as hard as I did going back and forth with you and Shade talking when you were Hular. And Pog couldn't get a word in edgewise. I wish I could have gotten a second take at that, because I was having so much fun playing the reactions, but then you just full sending everything past me was too funny for me to not naturally react to. So it was that to me is probably the chapter 1 funniest moment that I have. I love that moment.
That was a really good one. Yeah. What are your thoughts? What are some thoughts on Pog's accomplishments or growth in chapter 1?
I'm surprised that it's happened, to be honest. As I previously have said, I kind of wanted to be just the lovable oaf, and I have found a lot of room for more depth than I expected. We've had conversations about where that depth comes from, but man, and again, I'm very happy with the way chapter 2 has been lining up to show a lot of that growth. We can't avoid talking now about the fact that we have seen the date episode. We've seen a Pog who, while asking for help, also is a man of action, who's gonna state an intention and go for things. And then, with no spoilers, we also I've gotten a chance to see the side of him that has opinions, and he's grown into finding his value in the group, and believing that there's never going to be a Pog, I don't think, that believes he knows what's right, that the right choice. He's always going to be someone that leans on his friends. But seeing him as someone who has started to realize he's not dumb, no, I have feelings, I have thoughts, and it doesn't feel good when those are treated cheaply. It's been very satisfying to get to watch him become a lot deeper than I expected him to be.
Cool. I have really enjoyed seeing where the nuances that aren't there when in the, because we give each other sort of the little elevator pitch of the characters at the beginning. But as we discussed in all the character intro episodes, you don't really know who the person is till you play in their headspace for a little while. And that's been true of every D&D character I've ever played as well. And it is fun to find the areas where they are very different from what you initially thought they were, as well as the places where what you did think they are just comes out differently than you thought it would.
Yeah. I think what's been really fun is to get to play someone who is a part of a group while they discover that they deserve their place in it. From starting to have that kind of fortunate to not be alone feeling to now going, no, I belong here. We are supposed to be together, the four of us. There's, we're lucky to all have each other. No one of us is, fortunate to be shuttled along in the group. And that's been really satisfying to find that confidence in the character.
Yeah. And then we've kind of just been discussing this, but Richard's other question was, are your characters taking a developmental direction that you envisioned when you first created the character? And if not, at which point did this new growth or development path begin? So we've kind of been just talking about that.
Yeah. And it's tough to answer if we're not going to get into chapter 2 and not into things that haven't happened yet. But there's kind of a Spider-Man without Uncle Ben thing happening of, discovering his power is giving a sense of responsibility. And it's going to go back. Those that have seen my role play in games on Twitch know that playing a character of action is very compelling to me, and that's what Pog is kind of turning into. Is if we're going to do it, let's do it. Kind of an attitude, which when we discussed early on that I wanted to play someone that was just getting into the thick of it. I wanted to be fighting. It's kind of fun to see a character kind of burdened by their fighting develop this early. Like, this is what I wanted. Let's do it. We have to do it.
Yeah.
And that's been a fun development in character direction for me. As to which point in the story it began, that's a good question. I think it's been a slow build since the Boggle.
Yeah.
And man, where we're at now, it's just kind of coming to a head for him. So I guess I would say the excitement of that. And then also, let's be honest, the violence of being with the Rubble Warren gang, that was very real. That was a substantial amount of danger. And the Rubble Warren gang is really who we talked about Pog having been at a young age. The idea of glory, the idea of adventure. And it can kill you. And Colin can make fun of Eric all day long, but dude, Ari went down twice. That's not okay. That's not all right. That's a scary thing. When you actually put the thought behind that. We saw a woman that we had rescued fighting for her life on the ground. And the way you play death saves, we as players don't know which direction she's heading. And so from Pog's perspective, like, if that fight doesn't wrap up the way it does, that woman just dies. And, we're now all of us, it's not a staff and a spell book and a coin purse being purloined, like, Tommel's out here killing people and cool with it and saying, we're going to kill more. Then we can have Tommel apologists all day long, but the way that conversation played, Tommel's going to kill kids. He'll pick them off one at a time to get what he wants. At least that's what he's comfortable with having be his perception. You know what I'm saying? Like, this isn't fun. This isn't lighthearted stakes, man. Things are escalating, and if it's going to be our home, we got to get involved. We said that in the treehouse. We said that, and that I think that's the moment that it was fully realized.
That's cool. Yeah. This is fun.
I've got one here for you. Eric asks in the Discord, what percentage of giant that Ari has learned is correct?
So I was thinking about this. I saw that question. I was thinking about it, and it forced me to consider the character of Solarka's family. And I think where I've come down is Hular is a man who holds by agreements. Hular is a man of his word. I imagine Hular to be the kind of businessman that, I don't know, if you have kind of an older granddad who used to have a business and talks about everything being like handshake deals, that sort of thing. That's kind of what I imagine Hular is like as a businessman, is that Hular doesn't deal a lot in contracts. Hular doesn't deal a lot in shipping manifests. Hular deals a lot in, I said I would do this and you said you would do that, and so we'll each hold to each other. So I'm quite confident that everything Hular is teaching Ari is real accurate giant.
He's just not teaching them what chicken legs means.
Right. The joking aspect of it comes from Hular's brothers, who are more, of an age with our adventurers, and so are, I would argue, good-naturedly. I understand that it may not always play that way if you're on the receiving end of it, but from their perspective, at least, good-naturedly ribbing the skinny dude who comes and helps out at the forge, which maybe this will lead to me needing to develop Solarka's brothers as characters, including deciding how many of them there are, because I've never given a number.
I was just curious as you said that, like, how many of these rascals are there?
Yeah, I'll probably need to decide what portion of Hular's family and to what extendedness works at Black Iron, because I very much imagine it to be an entirely family business. So, which should be flattering to Ari, in that he's a non-family member allowed to be there and work there.
When you're in high school working restaurants in San Antonio, it's like having all of the people in the kitchen tell you what to say. Hey, say this in Spanish. And then afterwards, they tell you really what it means. It was just very funny to get you to say it. Like, to have me say the dirty thing, to say the wrong thing, or, and then tell you your mistake. It's still an education.
This is a super dated reference, but you remember at my big fat Greek wedding? Her brothers teaching her fiance terrible Greek.
Yep.
Yeah, it's that. It's to me.
You heard it here first. Khyber Shards inspired by Big Fat Greek Wedding. My big fat D&D campaign.
my big fat Goliath blacksmith shop. Yeah. Figure out what universal remedy Hular puts on every injury. Which is the Windex of Hular's world. Anyway, so long way around to say, everything that Hular is teaching Ari is correct, and most of what Ari would be picking up from her brothers is correct. There are some specific things where they're just screwing with him, and that largely came out of me and Colin and Eric have been friends forever, and so I know it was a delight for me and Colin to enjoy Eric's expressions as we played with him.
His frustratingly silent responses. Hey, so I have a question about mechanics now that we're talking, that I don't know if this is something that is pre-established or that you and Eric would have to decide, but if you're learning in that format, will he gain the ability to read Giant as well? Is that how it works when you learn a language, is speaking, hearing, and reading?
That's a really good question. I think per the way that the downtime exercise is given, you spend 7 weeks, you spend a ridiculous amount of gold, or you spend 10 weeks minus your intelligence modifier. You spend a ridiculous amount of gold, and at the end of that, you have the language on your sheet, and therefore you can read and write it as well as speak it. I will probably play, just in the narrative, play it as a little more gradual than that, because of course no one actually learns a language in 7 weeks unless you're some kind of savant. And
this episode of KSA brought to you by Rosetta Stone.
Right. Unless you use Rosetta. Want to learn a giant in 7 weeks?
We have an ad read now.
Right, yeah. I'll probably play it a little more gradually than that, of Ari being able to comprehend a little more and more as we go. The reading of it, I'm not 100% sure how I would play that, because I don't want to, on one hand, I don't want to rob Ari of any of the benefits of this downtime activity, because, he is spending effort into it, and he gave up the opportunity to make any money with his downtime in order to do it. So I don't want to rob him of the benefits of that, but it does seem to me silly that you would just immediately be able to comprehend the giant runes that are written all over the dungeons that you guys are going through, that sort of thing. So I'll probably play it a little more gradually than that, but yes, Hular's literate, and there would be written elements and reading elements of running the blacksmith's forge, just not nearly as much as you would get in a classroom setting. So it's much more immersion learning. But yes, eventually he will be able to, but I'll probably make it a little more gradual than just we get to the end of 7 weeks and bing.
I know Kung Fu.
Right, yeah.
That's from The Matrix for all you kiddos watching right now.
Only 21 years ago. Wow.
Yo, no.
It's 2000, right?
Was it really?
Or is it 1999?
Oh, my God.
I don't remember.
It's from 99.
Is it? Then it's 22 years ago.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, that's rough.
I regret that reference. My mortality came attached with it.
Oof. Wow. So, Laura and Mia both...
Hi, Mia.
Very, very badly want to know how Pog and Solarka's second date went, because they were both distressed that I declared that I wasn't going to roleplay every single social encounter between Pog and Solarka, so that this show isn't just about Pog and Solarka, because, yeah. Anyway, they want to know how Pog and Solarka's second date went, and whether or not they kissed, because apparently there were lots of people screaming at their screens for Pog to go for the kiss at the end of the date, at least based on Watch Party that I was in the chat for. So, yeah, I mean, this is an interesting conversation for us to have. I guess part of the question is, in this sort of interaction, how forward do you think of Pog?
Well, Pog stood Solarka up and is now living a life of celibacy. He's a monk. I'm just kidding. Okay, so this is a very interesting point for me, because, again, as the rookie D&D player here, I don't know what the protocol is for how you discuss an evolution in a relationship between a PC and an NPC in non-played times. But I'll tell you this. It wasn't the right time to kiss Solarka. The end of that date was not the right time. Some of I have had, for being as single as I am today, I've had a lot of first dates. And all of them have had an opportunity where you go, this could be the kiss. And I only regret the nights that had the kiss that didn't work out. The ones that had better dates afterwards that didn't have the kiss of the first date, they were so much better dates in retrospect. It's delayed gratification is not a fake sensation. But I'll also tell you this. Date number 2, Pog's not after date number 7, number 8. Pog's not going to be the one that knows when it's time to kiss. Pog has wanted to kiss Solarka since the player here and since you guys watching were introduced to her. I don't know where that inspiration came from. I thought it would be fun to be Twitter-pated with Solarka. And the more that our interactions grew and she was referenced, it just seemed kind of fun for there to be a crush character. So it's always just kind of that scratch in the roof of your mouth that, just can never quite heal is the crush for Solarka. And in my mind, and again, I don't know how we go about establishing these things, is to debate back and forth because you know Solarka better than I do. I'm pretty sure that if we went to dessert again after dinner on the 2nd, I think our boy Pog would have tried to maybe hold a hand. And no arm around the shoulder because we're both substantial creatures. And that's a strong physical gesture. I think it would have been that very 6th grade kind of back of the hands rubbing, and then maybe the slip under for a mittens. That's how I see it. As to when/if there is a kiss, man, Pog's not going to be the one to do it because going for a kiss and it be okay. Well, first of all, did we hold hands on the way to dessert?
So I have some thoughts about date number 2, and probably something that will need to happen more on screen later as well. But Solarka's not a dummy, as I think is very well established, and I did actually make some rolls on her behalf during the game last time. And while I'm just playing it that she also was confused enough in the moment to not catch the fact that Ari greeted you both by name, whereas I was just laughing too hard to not catch the fact that Ari greeted you both by name, she knows something fishy went down. And I think that kind of played in her demeanor as the date went on. And probably there's going to need to be some honesty from Pog at some point about that.
I will tell you this right now. If we choose to role play this, if we choose to just speak on it here, if Solarka brings it up, Pog's all the way clean. Pog,
I know,
100%. Especially about the first thing he will volunteer is that Ezri didn't help him get dressed. Ezri made him talk good. That's 100%.
Yeah. No, and I know. I know that's very predictable to me that Pog would immediately cave and come clean, just because that strikes me as Pog is that kind of earnest. That's one of the things that you have established as charming about Pog is his genuineness. And I can even imagine Pog in hindsight feeling bad about some having even some guilt about going in enchanted, about having Ari there in disguise, all of these things. So I totally do, and that's why. Otherwise, if I had any question about how it would go, I probably wouldn't have said that then, because I would want to see it. I would still think that conversation will be fun to play out, and so I'm going to leave that for a moment. Fine. But so I think second date is maybe more casual. But yeah, Solarka would hold Pog's hand.
We did it, y'all. We did it, y'all. We did it. We got to hold hands. And I'm like completely genuine. That's a big win. Pug's that kind of guy where after the holding hands on the walk, and then just imagining the nice, innocent hug goodbye, would not approach with the expectation that we hold hands when we walk together.
Right.
You know, just
right.
knows that it was a good occasion. So, yeah, yeah, I'm with it.
Yeah.
And now we've got...
I think, I think that's probably the way of it down. I'm very much enjoying getting to develop Solarka in this way. I wasn't, again, of the NPCs that I had you guys pick from, I really wasn't sure which ones would get strongly developed. And obviously we have still not met all of the NPCs that you guys picked. We haven't met either Ari's or Ezri's negative relationship choice. And checks notes. I think we might not have even met. We might not have actually had the opportunity to meet Ari's. Yeah, we have actually not had the opportunity to meet Ari's positive choice because it just hasn't. The story has not led us in those directions yet. So there are still a number of those, but you know, we've introduced a few, and we introduced Zotz, and Zotz has been kind of
hate that guy.
Zotz has been a fun little punchline, but we haven't really developed him as a character because it wasn't something you guys explored.
No.
We didn't really get into Soleil Moonspear, who was initially, like, my initial thinking was that there would be this rivalry that would play out in some areas, and then you'd encounter Ilya. But as the narrative played out, it came around very, very differently. That you encountered Ilya before we really, on screen, developed
I love Ilya.
Soleil much. I do too. She's delightful. So, yeah, it's been very fun to build Solarka's add on a little bit of Solarka's personality every time that we interact with her, because, you know, like a player character, these kinds of NPCs, at least for me, I know some GMs do an enormous amount of lead-in work on their NPCs, and they know all of their, and I've got a few NPCs that are like that, but most of my NPCs start out as little sketches, little impressionist pictures in my head, and they become more high definition, I guess, as you guys interact with them, and give me reason to figure out more things about them. So it is very much that same thing of Solarka is this thing, and then through the play, I find out things about her that I did not know, and likewise for, you know, the Rebel Warren kids or Gerald, who, for one thing, in my head was initially was Gerald Goodblade, and then everybody pronounced him Gerald. And the first time we met, I was like, all right, I guess that's where we are.
That's what's decided then. So let it be written.
Yep. So let it be written. Anyway,
speaking of the Rebel Warren gang, Laura asks you, is the Rebel Warren gang something the kids made up, or has there always been an adorable group of children who pass down the title as they age out of going on their quests? So this
is an interesting
the losers?
Right. This is interesting. The second option had honestly I had never considered, was there a Rebel Warren gang before this, so I'd never considered this question until Laura asked it. And the second option had not occurred to me. There is a gang. There is a criminal entity that is like that to a degree, called the Fleas, and they are a gang of they're pickpockets. They're there's a gang of pickpockets in David Copperfield, and I can't remember what they're called. But
guarantee it's not the Fleas.
No,
I would never want to get jumped into that gang.
But they're mostly young, and they run pickpocketry around the city, and they're looked out for by all the other gangs because all the other gangs scout talent from it.
It's like the minor league.
Yeah. It's the minor league of the criminal underbelly of Stormreach.
That's outstanding.
But Yeah, I kind of want the Rebel Warren gang to be something like, for there to have been a previous Rebel Warren gang, but I don't know. I don't know what that looks like yet. But I really like that idea. Like that makes me very
I
happy.
love the
that
idea.
suggestion. Yeah. So I'm going to say there has been a Rebel Warren gang before, but I don't know how formal the passing down is. I don't know whether this is like a Big Brothers passing, their toys and their games they loved down to their younger siblings, or if this is just a local thing where as kids age out, the rotation just shifts a little bit
Right.
at a time as kids get too old to want to do it anymore. So, yeah, I don't know exactly what that looks like, but I really like the idea of it being a continuous thing. So I'm going to say, yes, it is a continuous thing. Just don't ask me for details yet.
It'll make me feel bad if I wind up finding out that I bought the heirloom masks off of them.
No, I think they said they made those. I think they
Yeah,
declared they
yeah.
made those on air.
Well, now they
all
have
right,
to.
Right, yes. And then we have one more question from Eric. Has Pog considered having Solarka be his manager / trainer for the upcoming Red Ring career?
Career? No. No. Trainer, yeah. Yeah. In fact, I had that very idea went through my head right after the "she's watching" line of, oh, she's probably like the only person I could actually spar with that would be pretty decent at this point. Yeah, probably. Well, to be honest, a lot of that will now hinge on how the third date goes. Dating risks everything. Like, you're out there, you're vulnerable. If she's not impressed with the answers, regardless of their earnestness, then it looks like shades on her own with the new friendship, because it'll be super awkward for Pog to go back around the forge. Manager?
Oh my gosh, Solarka would totally talk to Shade about Pog. Oh my gosh, that's going to be so good.
Yeah, that's 100%. I was going to speak to you about this as soon as we finish recording, actually, because as you said, you're friendly or you're hostile NPCs. Shade and I both selected Solarka as our friendly, and so yeah, that's going to be a conversation that you guys are going to get into. Yeah, I'm very excited about that. But manager, no, I have still not got Pog yet. There were some choices at level 4 that maybe could have had Pog go down a gladiatorial kind of road. They're on the horizon, I would imagine, the next couple choices I get to add things to him. But right now we're basically just looking at being Bad Bunny making his WWE appearance before he actually gets to have a WrestleMania card. So yeah, we'll see. We'll see. It's going to be fun. I don't know where you're headed with that. I have no idea where that's going. I know you well enough to know that it's not just happenstance that you were like, oh, this would be a great time for Kolos to appear. No, you're working on something, and I'm terrified and a little giddy at the same time. It's gonna be a lot of fun. But yeah, hopefully we'll get to train with Solarka. I think that could be a lot of fun.
Yeah. Well, yeah, she's much closer to Kolos' height than you are, for one thing. All right. Well, those are our questions for the week. So we hope you are at least partially satisfied by our answers.
Or we hope that you are so dissatisfied that you will for sure watch until you get the answers that you're looking for.
That's true. That's true. Yeah. I mean, I'm very much looking forward to the relationship developing more, and I'm very much looking forward to seeing where Pog goes from here, because I'm just very much enjoying how dynamic these characters are. Like, that's just a lot of fun for me.
It's been very satisfying to be a part of, for sure.
Mm-hmm. So, well, all right. We'll wrap up there and see you guys on Monday. And we'll have another episode and see what some of the aftermath of the tense conversation with Tommel that Ari had is.
I'm sure it's all going to lighten up. It's all going to lighten up from here.
It will be a very lighthearted episode, as I'm sure you can all expect. So,
yeah. I think there's a whole chasing butterflies sequence that we get into. You have us rolling for net efficiency.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That's
absolutely.
not what happens, you guys. That's not what happens. It's not.
You heard it here first, guys. Anyway, thank you all so much for watching. If you want to get in touch with us, give us a comment down below. If you're enjoying this, please hit the like and subscribe buttons. It is all in the name and favor of the almighty algorithm. Praise them. You can also see Colin's stream over on Twitch at twitch.tv/sorrybtr, the O being a 0, whenever his life allows it to. So be sure to hit the follow button so you will be notified. And his stream is delightful. So
it's a pretty good time. I hang out there a lot.
Yeah.
So I recommend it.
I occasionally hang out there, not super often, but every now and again.
It's true. It's true.
But anyway, thank you all so much for watching. This has been Khyber Shards. I'm Philip.
I'm Colin.
Thanks for rolling with us.